So 2 years ago I had to rip the fenders off my car trailer because I kept hating them with the Jeep tires because it's too wide and it kept pushing them out and it was rubbing the tires, leaving a smoke trail, so I had to turn around, go home, cut them off, and here we still are without fenders. So I want to build drive overs. For the material, you guessed it, more scrap metal. This is all like some red iron stuff that I salvaged. Problem is none of them are long enough, so I took the 2 longest ones, paired them with the 2 shortest ones. Basically I have to turn these 8 into 4 long pieces. Then I have 2 left over to help with kickers and supports and stuff. Before I can weld these together and make 2 into 1, I have to square off the ends, prep these, grind the paint off, etc., and then lay them out on the table and clamp them so I can make 1 continuous long piece. It's a whole bunch of extra steps, but it saves me from having to go to a steel yard and spend a couple $100 on steel, so I'll do it. You can see these are like super jagged and not good at all, so I'm going to just square one end of each piece. The far ends, there's going to be excess that I can trim off, so I don't care about those. The last time I used the old Evo saw, I tried to cut something hardened, and I think I might have cooked the teeth right off of it. We're about to find out. This thing makes such a mess and it's so loud, but it's fast and it's accurate. Wow, that's loud. This is the mess this thing makes from just 8 cuts, and these are big shavings. They're kind of a pain to clean up. So I line these all up with the fresh cut end over there from longest to shortest. Basically what I'm going to do is pair up the longest with the shortest, second longest with the second shortest, those 2. So now I gotta lay them out and kind of join them. Most sane people would just clean their table. I gotta prep all these ends. Well, this is my general idea here. Clamp them down. Clamp one to the side to keep them straight that way, leave a little bit of gap, tack up a couple sides, and then burn them in. I tried clamping that end of it down to the table, and it actually pulls it up here. I don't have a fab table that I can clamp in the middle, which sucks. That piece there almost seems to have a curve to it. It ain't rocket science, it just has to be kind of straight. Whatever, it'll be close enough. I'm going for no weaves, no fancy stuff, just a nice straight bead. Because we're going to grind it flush, that's why I left that gap in there, so it would open a little bit of a keyhole as I welded, and weld down in between them and not just on the surface. So I should be able to grind these flat and it'll be one solid piece. Most normal people could just skip this step and go buy normal steel, but I'm a cheap ass. There's those 3 made up, and here's number 4, this one. I actually went ahead and just ground it down. Yeah, that's maybe going to make it a little bit weaker, but I am going to have a center support between the tires that go up to the inner and the outer one. It's not going to line up exactly on this line because we got a long piece and a short piece, but it'll be close and it'll be good enough. Kind of pains me to grind away such clean, straight, good looking welds, but I'm going to have a skin that goes on this. You can see they came out to different lengths. There's nothing I could really do about that. I did the best I could to even them out. Before we can do anything with those, I need to build some legs coming off of here. And for that, I'm going to use these. These are Ford Bronco crash bars, man. I take these off all the time at work for tire clearance for people, and they're hardened steel. They're really extremely hard to cut, but look at this. They're like the perfect length to just come up past the tire. So that's what we're going to use. Figuring out exactly where to put them, that's another story. You can see here we've got kind of a template laid out for where I want these poles to stick out of the trailer. And I kind of stole this from Dirt Lifestyle. I snapped some chalk lines. They're really hard to see though. And that's pretty much a 45 up to that, over, down, and here's this other one. So now I can build all these to match this. The thing I have to do is make sure this upper inner measurement isn't going to be like too narrow where it gets too close to the tire. All right, that there's pretty well what we're doing with these. I skipped ahead and cleaned this, got this first one tacked on. It is a bit windy, so it's going to be hard to get a good weld that's not contaminated, but I'm going to give it a shot. Actually, Amber's kid's home, Jay, he's 16, and he said something about he wanted to weld, so maybe I'll bring him out here and see what he can do, see what he learned in his one semester of welding at school. All of a sudden my welder isn't working worth the crap. I was trying to put some gussets on the bottom. Let me show you what's up. So I was trying to add these gussets right here and the welder just went to absolute crap. And I think this happened on the last project I worked on. I was welding a ton. It literally blew a hole through the brass and it's like arcing through my tip, and then the tip keeps getting stuck and all kinds of weird stuff keeps happening. So I need a new brass thing and a new tip before I do too much more here. But what we can do is start setting these up. I've got it right on the line. I marked center on the tube and I line that up with center on this, and now we can start figuring out the pie cut to make this angle down. That is about a 50-degree pie cut. This is at 45 degrees, but I'm giving it a little bit of extra, and then I should be able to swing it down till those meet, and it should come pretty close. If there's a little bit of, I'd rather have a gap than have to sit there and grind on it forever. Gotta mark it on the other side and we'll give it a shot. Well, with the welder acting up and it's getting kind of late, sun's going down, decided to fire up the old Blackstone and we're cooking breakfast for dinner. Well, the old Portaband here makes real quick work of cuts like this. It is dark out, but we're gonna go ahead and just do this first one and make sure that I'm even in the ballpark before I go cutting them all and find out I did something wrong. She's a little crooked, and that's why we cut out more than a 45. We'll dial it in later and weld that up. Oh boy. Should do. Alright, well, I've been hard at work and I've got two of them made already. They're slightly different because apparently I can never make two things exactly the same. And I'll show you the process on the next two. I was doing this in the dark last night and it's hard to film. But right now, while I still got some light, these are my plates. I've got them reverse beveled, so that's Steelite paint, so it's that weld through paint. I just wanted to paint the backside, and the trailer's got that on there too. There's gonna be one leg that comes straight up and catches the inner one, and then I'm gonna weld a second leg that comes up and catches the outer one. And that's a lot of force to be applied to this tubing. That's why we're plating it. So much easier to weld if I just took the tires off so I could get in there like that. Probably the most frustrating part of this whole project is just trying to do this outside, because even when it's not very windy, it's just a little breezy. That little breeze will take your welding gas and send it into the next county, and then you end up with a crappy weld. Super frustrating. That's also part of the reason why this took me about a month to complete this project. Not too shabby, but you can see I missed a little bit. this point I still haven't fixed the welder yet either. I'm waiting on the parts to show up. And the weird thing is, if you're welding normally, it seems to do okay-ish. The minute you try to weld vertically or upside down, it just spits and pops, and that's why we can't get anything fully welded right now. So this is welding really crappy, and what I'm going to do is do it later and take the tires off one at a time so I can get down the sides and then jack the whole thing up to do the bottom. Figured I'd get the last two marked out while I can still see outside. It looks way lighter on this camera than it really is. Basically, I just made 50-degree pie cuts in there again. So I'll bring them inside, cut those out with the portaband, bend them, and they'll be ready to weld up, but probably be tomorrow. This is just like a hour per night during the week kind of project right now. On the second one I did, I ended up having to weld a huge gap because I cut too much out of it, but I can weld a gap. Make sure they match on both sides. Take the old portaband, hi-ya, hi-ya, hammer out the piece that comes out of there. All in one, and right my Jeep wheel. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I messed up in a few spots, but that should get me close. All right, guys, it's the next night. So getting these like close to the same is easy, but getting them identical is kind of hard. And the first two I made were a little bit off, so one's gonna be for the left, one's gonna be for the right, and the second two I'm going to use clamps to try to perfectly match them to what I already have. So I pretty much just put some plate, clamp, 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 so everything's the same. I don't have this side clamp, but this one's pretty much bang on with it, so I'll just hold it in place with my hand and tack it. And we'll do the same thing for that stack over there. If you're ever stuck welding a huge gap like this, just find yourself some TIG rod, cut little pieces, tack weld them in there. It gives you kind of a little backing, something to drag the puddle across as you're going along. Yeah, I can weld up to probably a 1/4 inch gap without them, but it's just much easier to take a minute, put these in there. Good little tip for you guys. So I was able to lay these back on the template on the trailer and draw lines exactly where I needed to trim off the excess so that they'd be the perfect shape that I needed. And it worked out pretty good. Alright, so we finally get to see a little bit about how it looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. I will say I'm a little concerned. No, there seems to be plenty of tire clearance and a little bit less than I wanted there. I probably should have done more of a angle like that. Pieces match each other pretty good. Plan on building a couple of cross pieces. I'm gonna have a center tube going down to there off of both of these, and then maybe I'll just do like one here and one here, and then I'm gonna do a tube like that. I still need to make some gussets down here. I did it on the back ones, but not here. My welder was really acting up that day. I actually had to go and buy new consumables. I had tips, but I needed a new one of these. Was arcing out of this and to my nozzle, and then the nozzle was electrocuting me. That was fun. The more overhead welding that I did, the worse it got, because little bits of kept dripping down in there and just making it worse and worse. So I kind of gave up on that. I only welded a little bit of the underneath of everything, but once I get all this stuff dialed and it's time to finish weld, I will probably take this thing to work and put it up on the hoist. It'll make it so much easier to weld all the underneath stuff. It's getting dark. All I can really do now is some grinding. I'm going to grind these welds just on the outside and on the inside. These ones I'm gonna leave. And then we got to work on finding something to skin this with too. On the backside here, after I do my vertical tube, it's going to be spaced out because of that plate that I did, and that should leave just enough room to sheet this inside too. And if you look, I've got a gap here too just from my weld, so I've got room to drop some kind of a skin down in on the inside. And honestly, I thought about using 3/16 plate because I got a good bit of it, and that's going to be carrying that vertical load, which will just help make it even stronger. But I've got like 1, 2, 2.5. They're not like full sheets. They're like 4 feet by 2 feet. Actually, I've got a fourth one here that's been cut on too, so I could at least make those inners with that, but that's kind of overkill to do for the tops. Well, it's Saturday and I'm trying to get some stuff done, but I'm on nephew duty. Say hi, Braxton. Say hi. Say hi. You got chalk on your face? Just waiting for Grandma to pick him up. Then we can get to cutting and grinding and welding and all the fun stuff. We're just waiting on the world's slowest bandsaw here to cut another piece. Figure I can at least do that while he's here. So this is that piece we were just cutting. Bubba's gone now, so we can get back to work. Cut out these little squares, so we can just cap this will be the bottom of those tubes that go up to support the fenders. I just wanted to cap them off. Unfortunately, it's quite breezy today, which is gonna make it hard to weld out there, and it's even blowing in here. We may not get as far as I want today. Honestly, this stuff's pretty thin. I think I'm just gonna stack a bunch of tack welds. With it being so windy, the smart play would be to stick weld or break out the flux core, but honestly, I hate flux core so much that I'm willing to just chance getting bag MIG welds before I do that. Enough for me. Sometimes, for no apparent reason, I spend time finish grinding something to look all nice like this when it's literally just on the bottom of a support tube that you'll never ever see. Why do I do this? And then I leave other stuff looking ugly as crap? I don't know. Well, I just spared y'all about a half an hour worth of grinding all the ends of all those tubes up so we can finally start taking shape with this thing. I'm gonna start setting everything up, trying to half-ass square it up anyway. It ain't gotta be perfect. Get everything tacked in, and then I gotta cut some cross pieces and some other pieces, and then when it's done, hopefully the wind will die down and I'll full weld the whole thing. This is one of those parts where I kind of got in a hurry. I just chucked them all on there, eyeballed it, looked good, tacked them on and just went with it. And I really should have 180'd a couple of these pieces so that the little corners lined up a little better, which you'll see why later when we go to throw the skins on, but it is what it is now. I realized that I was gonna brace this. Wherever I joined these is not dead center with where my pipe's gonna come up, about right here. And I was gonna grind this smooth and put a plate on here before I put that piece on there. So that's what we're doing now. Would have been a heck of a lot easier to do it before I welded it on there, but whatever. So I figured I would chuck this piece up. It's a little overkill, but it's the right width. It's 3/8, but here I'll throw it in the world's slowest bandsaw here. And I'll work on cutting something else out while this goes. So I got these cutoff pieces. They're definitely more than a 45, but I kind of like how that looks. I basically want to run it right there to give me a little bit of an approach for if I have to drive over these. So I think I'll just tuck it under here, mark me a line that matches the angle, and then I can cut that off and then duplicate this for the backside. And then on the front, I think we'll go more of a 45. This does look a little goofy with this plate being off-center. The point of it is to be centered on the seam in the tube, because you got to remember the weight of a Jeep is going to be driving over the top of this thing, and I don't want that weld to fail, especially since I ground it down smooth. Yeah, it's kind of redneck, but this whole project's kind of redneck. Well, I used my last chunk of tube and had just enough to cut 4 of these guys. Those ones will be at 45s, back ones will be longer. So now I don't have anything left to make my spreads, which are going there. And I don't have anything left to make my angle. We gotta go in here and dig through the scrap bin of doom and see if we can find, 4 of something that's the same, which I doubt. Got some of these rectangles. I suppose I could use these, but again, I don't know if I have 4 of them. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. I guess we're using these since I've got 4 of them. A whole box of scrap I caught at an estate sale for $1. I'm a cheap ass, so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh yeah. And you wouldn't believe the amount of stuff I've built out of that box. This is the shortest one, so if it's long enough, they're all long enough. You can see I kind of wedged those in there to pull this one out a little bit. We got more than enough. So I welded the insides of this, and I'm just gonna let it cool down for a bit. And it's hot out, and I'm gonna go cool down for a little bit too. All right, sit rep, it's been a couple hours. I took a nice break, and then I've been doing a bunch of welding. I didn't film any of it just because I kind of did one side, I was gonna film the other side, and then I just ran out of gas. I didn't even know I was low, but it's completely out. So I'm kind of screwed till Monday, but this is what it looks like. We got these on there, those on there, got the front one on there. Got lots of welds done, but welds like all done in here. I skipped until I take the tires off. Can't believe I let myself run out of gas though, so I guess I'm gonna go take a shower and call it a night. All right, it's been a couple days. Picked up some welding gas, and I picked up some material for the skins, but I kind of made a mistake. What I did is I had him shear me off some 9-inch wide pieces of 1/8-inch diamond plate, and there's enough here where I can bend it down each edge, and there will be about that much left over. But I completely forgot about getting some extra to cover these. I don't know, we'll see if I can make it work, but I bet we're gonna come up just short. But before I even worry about that, I'm gonna have to finish welding everything over there. At some point we'll roll the press out from the wall, throw the old swag press brake in there, and we'll get those bent up. And hopefully I can do it right, because I'm going to be honest with you, my pieces, they are not perfectly square. It's kind of funny, in this one clip, all the kids came out here to try to make a cameo. Fucking weekend out here, just doing nothing but organizing and throwing shit away.
Yeah, the 3 days I wasn't.
Alright, I'm losing light here, bro. See you in a bit. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be like the ugliest weld ever. Don't weld in the... I know this camera probably don't look dark, but it's getting dark out here. I can't see what I'm doing hardly. Whatever. Good enough. Had to grind out the weld from the other day because I ran out of gas and it turned into Swiss cheese. Will just left to go to the gym.
Yeah, I broke them off. I was on sugar fire. I sat there talking with Gavin for like an hour. That Midwestern goodbye.
You gotta go like this. You gotta get up and slap your knees and go, well, I suppose.
Yeah, we were like, yep, no more talking. We gotta go.
It happened.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, you're recording. Never mind. Hi. Come out here and see what you're doing.
Oh, you know, just welding. I've had that running for a while, though. I'd probably be okay to shut it off.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, you go do that. There's one thing I can say for certain. Being the parent of a bunch of teenagers is rewarding, but also the most frustrating thing I've ever done. Well, if I missed anything, I'll have to do it when it's lighter out. Alright, it's the weekend again. It's Friday, and today I stopped and got some goodies. Needed more of these, couldn't find them the other day. They didn't have any of the smaller ones like these ones. So anyway, plan is to put them right here, which will give me a nice like cross strap point on all four of these. I came out here during the week and I like ground these welds smooth so that I can weld. I gotta strip a lot of this paint off. There's still so much to do. Of course, it's been raining, so it made it rust. I think I'm gonna put a little bevel on this ring just so the weld really gets down in there, because it sits pretty much flush. Yeah, this project's taking a lot longer than I thought. It's dragging on. You know, I only have so much light after work, and it's been fair week, so I was out at the fair. Actually, somebody came up to me and they're like, hey man, I love your YouTube channel, and I just wasn't expecting that, because it's not a very big channel, so it's weird when you get recognized locally. But let's get these ground down. Oh, the wind got me right at the last minute. Look at that. Boo. All right, I'm kind of jumping out of order here. I've been grinding paint away for my top skin, but I decided I wanted to do this back skin first. And so I just took this sheet, tacked it on there, and I'm gonna come along with the plasma or something and lop it off. I've got 3 of these sheets, so that should, you can see it's covered all the way except for the last little bit, so hopefully the 3rd sheet's enough to do that part, or this cutoff scrap is. I also took this tire off so that I could come in here and get those 2 welds done, those 2 welds up there. If I'm going to use plasma on this, I probably better give it a few more tacks just so it's a little stronger, because that heat will cause it to warp and break a tack. I don't really know, I'm just kind of winging it. All I can say is if you guys want to take on a project like this, if you don't have a pocket full of cash to buy all new stuff, you better have a pocket full of persistence to deal with using old crappy metal and scrap paint covered stuff. But if you do, you can get it done. Well, something just blew up on the old air compressor. That is loud. I think she's done for. Oh my. Oh, damn it. Right in the middle of a project, too. Of course, that's the only way it happens, right? Kind of curious what blew up, though, because it's not leaking air now that I've shut it off. I was thinking maybe the reeds exploded or something, but I'm pretty sure it would backfeed the air back out the intake or something if that happened. Oh, the old Craftsman might have breathed its last breath. Then again, we still have a full tank, so I'm going to cut as far as my cutter will let me cut. I still don't know what's wrong with the compressor, but it only starts making that noise over 100 psi, so I was still able to kind of use it, but man, it's so obnoxious. Honestly, a little harder to cut than I thought, because I had to hold the cup at an angle, and every time I accidentally let the tip touch, it would so my distance was way too far for it. I had to kind of hold the torch back, and that's why I had to go back and recut a bunch of places, and that's why the cut looks like garbage. Whatever, it's off, and it was still faster than using a grinder or a sawzall. I got the whole top of that piece welded, and the wind got me, and it got me really bad on this edge. so bad that it Swiss cheesed the whole thing. And I was never intending on grinding this smooth. I've ground it smooth, still Swiss cheese. I've welded over it again, still Swiss cheese. It's just staying like that. I'm just gonna not weld when it's windy. I know better, so why did I do it? I don't know. So I believe I've got everything done under here that needs done. I just stitch welded it. I even sprayed some paint in there and then switched to this side because I haven't welded the sides of this and stuff yet. So last weekend I was working on this and I leaned my leg into a hot weld and that's what it's looking like now. Still freaking hurts. Anyway, this is turning into the world's longest, stupidest project. I just keep working on it here and there. I did some more last night. Let me show you. This goofy looking piece that's on here. It's one of my scrap pieces. I got it just kind of tacked in. So now we can cut this off, but I think I want to try it different than I used the plasma last time. It just equaled a whole bunch of grinding, and honestly the weld was harder to make. I'm starting to wonder if I'm better off just welding it now and then cutting above the weld and just smoothing out whatever's left. So I don't know, I think I'm gonna try that on this one. I beveled out this seam right here so that the weld can fall down in there, and then I'll probably have to come back on this side and hit it a little bit too. This welder's starting to act up and it's really irritating me because I just put new tip and nozzle and the brass thing inside of it, and it's already starting to arc back through my nozzle again, and like, so the nozzle keeps sticking to the metal and stopping the weld. It's so irritating. Yeah, I just pulled this apart and this piece is already broken. It's supposed to be one piece and then the nozzle just pushes onto it, and these little snap rings kind of hold it in place. I kind of like the small gun design better where the nozzle just screws onto here, but this piece screws onto there and then this just press fits, and what ends up happening is every time you hit it, it like moves a little bit, breaks that piece, and then your nozzle moves and it comes in contact with the tip or with this, and then it like arcs through it, and then it welds like absolute shit. With my compressor kind of blowing up yesterday, I didn't have much of a choice. The grinder wasn't quite working how I wanted. This is what it looks like. I wasn't planning on grinding the entire weld away, but maybe that's what will end up looking cleanest. I don't know. I'll try to clean the edge up. Let me tell you something. These are Milwaukee blades. They're called a torch with carbide teeth. Stupid expensive. I mean, it's like, they're like $10 a blade or something. But I just cut that whole thing with this, and it's just as sharp now as it was when I started, even though you can see a little bit of discoloration. It got a little hot. This looks like a job for Big Bertha here. You can kind of see the line, which means it must not have penetrated as good as I thought. But the good news is my pieces, if I center it up, it's gonna lay pretty close to that, so I can just kind of, when I weld this on, I can re-weld over that. The problem is I was never intending on full welding this. I was gonna just stitch weld it, but maybe I'll stitch weld it out here and full weld it there. Cut these little guys out. I actually got this from Farm and Fleet. It's only 14 gauge, not as thick as the skins are gonna be, but I just didn't have enough. Cut some gaps to fill. I didn't cut it perfect, but I just don't care. So we'll get this welded on there, and then we can get our measurement from this surface up to the bin. Alright, we got this sitting here. It's gonna be tricky holding up all this excess while we do this, but got my first line marked 19.5. Hopefully that's close enough, and then we'll go lay it on there, mark the second one. Yeah, here goes nothing. I just don't know how I'm gonna hold this up and pump the jack at the same time. I'm glad I just thought about this. I didn't check square on the end of these. I got them from the steel supply. This is the one thing I bought, was these. I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it sure looks like it's tailing off this way. Well, here goes nothing. $29, so and this side's showing 22. If you add those together, it's about 50. So hey, let's pull it out and check it. Alright, looks like I overbent it a little bit. Pretty nice. I think I need to trim just a little bit off the bottom. I think if I just trim a little bit off the bottom, that this will sit down a little bit, that little gap. Getting all these bends to fit perfectly would have been a little bit easier if both of my tubes that it's sitting on would have been perfectly straight with each other, but they weren't, and you'll see eventually I just give up on the bending idea and I just cut individual panels and weld them on. My line is not square, so if I bend it right here, it should match my corners pretty good. But with it being on a crooked, that means this piece will bend off to one side or the other. Stupid trains. Worst case scenario, if it's that crooked, I can just cut it off and weld it. Put her back into two-wheel drive. Alright, I've been gone on vacation and stuff, but we're getting back on this. I did some stuff without filming, so I'll catch you guys up. I did put the second bend in here, and now it's like there's way too much space between here and there. It hangs off like a 1/4 inch off the back. I don't know how that happened. It must just be the way the material stretches when you bend it or something. I'm just gonna cut it, and I'm just gonna have to have a weld right there. I didn't have enough left over to make a big piece, so I had to stitch a piece together. I did not have enough to come out here onto this and weld it like I did on all the other ones, but the sheet's gonna come down and weld like right here anyway. I don't really have OCD, but it kind of just drives me nuts like if I did. I think what I'm gonna do, set that on there and mark where I need to cut it and just cut it and go ahead and get that one tacked in and work on building this piece. And then this side will be really close to done. That side has a long way to go. I'm gonna see if I can hammer that closed, I guess. Not sure how I did that. Alright, the battery died on me, but I've been just welding away. They don't look that great. I went with 5 welds. I think that's more than enough. This backside, I might weld the whole way. The reason being, though, is I still have that seam from where this piece joined to the tube. So I'd like to just, so probably burn that all the way in. And then I did 3 down the side, kind of really long on that one. I'm gonna full weld that, but I guess I forgot to. Of course, I've lost my light and it's starting to rain again, so I'm just about done for tonight. Well, I had to piss the whole day away yesterday because it was too windy to weld out here. I came out and tried to put this piece on, and you can see what happened to the weld. It just, the wind blew the gas right. Today, it's changed directions a little bit. It's coming more from that way. So I got this piece of plywood here, and I'm gonna try to get this side finished up, see what I can do about the other side. First things first, gotta grind this one out, and then we'll get this done. All right, well, that pretty well finishes this side off. The only thing I really got left to do is I gotta cap the two ends of these tubes, and then there's a couple welds underneath, and I need to put a gusset on the bottom of this tube like I did on that one. And I'm going to show you guys a lot less of that side just because you just saw the same thing on this side. Been getting a bunch done. I went and picked up, decided instead of rattle can, we'll try some tractor paint, the low gloss black, and I'll probably actually end up painting the whole trailer. I just did a test section right here. It's still a little tacky, but looks pretty good. Might need a second coat. I can see the brown primer through it here and there. But anyway, I've been over here working on this other side trying to get it catch up, and this is how you know this thing is probably overbuilt a little bit. I just put a 10-pound spool in this welder somewhere around when I started this project, and it just ran out. 10 pounds. Just getting this surface all cleaned up so we can get the backer welded to it, welding up some of these stuff that I missed. If I'm lucky, Amber's gonna come out and help me paint this stuff though, because she's the paint expert. I suppose it's a good thing that when I bought this, I ordered 2. Probably ruining my liner. I think it has a jagged edge on it. I can't even see that. I hope I welded on the right spot. Alright, so this time, instead of welding this on here and then trying to cut it off flush, I did a little bit with the plasma right there, and then I did that side with a sawzall, which took forever. And at the end of the day, I didn't like how it fitted up. I had to bring the weld out farther than I wanted and all that. So this time, I just marked it, and then I'm just gonna use the old death wheel, cut it first.
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest.
I believe I just blew up my favorite grinder. No! This thing's been with me since like 2010. Come on now, don't die on me. It's still trying to go. Oh man. Pour one out for the homie, man. This thing pretty much built my whole damn Jeep.
I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that.
Figured out a way how I'm gonna save time on this one. Instead of welding this whole thing on there and then like grinding it smooth, then making my skin and putting it on there like right here and welding it, what if I just tack it in a couple places and then line my skin up about like right there and just do one big fat weld between the skin, the backer, and the tube. Just have it nice and close like that. Save me a bunch of time.
Take smoke, I'ma poke a hole through you, choking's overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude. Crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently. Thanks for trying me. Now it's finally time to see how this rises.
Alright, it's starting to get dark here, so I think I'm gonna quit here for the night. Went ahead and threw this in there and got it stitch welded in here and there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and prime it because I'm so tired of it flash rusting. The inside anyway. Up here, all I did was just tack it every so often, and this part will just have to wait till I do the skin. Alright, little progress update. I'm out here once again greasing the dark. I've got some backing on, but I didn't have a big enough piece, so I have to stitch in this middle piece and have 2 welds, which sucks. But this side is going to be difficult, and the reason I say that, I really didn't get these equal. And if you kind of line that up with that corner and you come over here, you see how far off it is. So I put the first bend in the skin, and it's just like I'm gonna have to make it 3 separate pieces, and then I'm gonna probably be fighting a triangle. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Tonight's goal is just to get this at least kind of put together. Well, I'm getting in my daily hour of work on this thing today. Let me ask a question. Why is it that sometimes I can't weld for shit, and other times it just seems so easy and it just looks great? Like, I mean, sure, I've welded better than this before, but like all the way down this, I stitch welded it, and it just turned out good. Like, and I wasn't trying any harder than any other time. I'm honestly just trying to rush through this. So why is that? I kind of wish I would have just done that from the get-go. I just kind of slit this so it would bend down. It's on a super crooked thing, but I thought if I cut crooked that the bend would go crooked, but damn if I didn't bend it down and it just followed it perfectly. So I just trimmed off the end. I'll just start back over here where I've got it tacked already and work my way that way. So I just got to fill in these grooves on this one. You probably can't see this one. This one was a little weird, but I can hammer it down a little more. Yeah, other than that, I'm just gonna burn this in. All right, y'all, today is the day I think we finish this trailer. I got all this put on there last night. Got it all on there, got it all welded up. Full welded this backside just like the other side. This worked so much better than that. The only difference is they're different now. So if you got OCD, that might bother you, but I don't. So I got a bigger reveal over here where it's more of like a split between the two sides over there. But either way, it's done. And I was getting ready to paint it, and I remembered I never put end caps on here. So I ground this up, cleaned it all up, and I just traced one of those crash bars onto here. So I got to cut these 4 blanks out, get those welded on, clean everything up, get her some paint. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but there's gonna be some like final touches that I do at work. I'm gonna bring it to work like on a weekend. I'm gonna put it up on the hoist, take the tires off so I can really get underneath. There's just a couple more welds I want to do and things that's just so hard to do laying on the ground. I also still don't have any square tube to make those supports out to the outer rail that I talked about earlier, so I'm working on finding some more tubing for that. And that's what they're gonna look like. Close enough. There's one all welded up, and there's one all smoothed out. Ooh, shiny. All right, y'all, this thing is pretty much done. I'm still waiting on some steel to make those last couple supports, and I'll bring it back when that happens. But I did go around and kind of did a fresh coat of paint all the way around the trailer, and this thing looks so much better. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I'm just not happy with the amount of work that it was. Anyway, you'll notice that it's hooked up because I have to go use it today. The kid blew a brake line and his truck's just sitting like 20 miles away. And I don't feel like trying to drive it that far with no brakes.
You got a picture of the Ranger on the trailer too?
Probably. Well, it held up good for the first run, but I've just learned something. If I'm gonna haul something big and wide like this with big old running boards sticking out, that I better be a little bit centered better, because yeah, I bashed his running board into this and pretty much dragged it the whole way up, but whatever. That's the price of the free tow. So my dad works at the factory I used to work at, and a lot of the scrap metal I got from there, and I remembered there was some square tube there, so I asked him, and he brought me this. And basically all this stuff comes from like old machines that we scrapped out. It's not pretty, but we can go ahead and make those 2 pieces to go right there. All right, so I got the old angle finder plus out, and I've got this roughly laid out There's one, and then using that same cut, I just flipped it. There's the other, but before I cut the second one, I'm definitely gonna do some test fitting. Honestly, I cannot believe this even fits. I just completely maxed out the angle on this thing, and it's pretty much bang on. She may be the world's slowest bandsaw, but it still beats trying to do it by hand. Guess I'll check on it in like 20 minutes once it's dark outside. There they are. Smoothed out the paint, got the rust off of them, beveled up the edges. Angles are matching, but yeah, like I said, it's dark, so we'll weld them on there tomorrow. And then we should pretty much be done. I never finished recording it, but I did come back and weld those in. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, here it is. All we gotta do is paint on those, but we're taking the JK and Amber's quad wheel in today, and I figured what better time to see if the fender can hold up to the weight. Of course, there's no sagging or anything. If anything, my poor ramps aren't doing too good right now, but trying to see if this thing will even fit on here with the quad. So it's pretty much done now. I just got to do some marker lights and some finishing touches, a little bit of paint touch up, and a couple welds underneath that I'm going to take it to work and lift it up to do. For those of you that watched this whole thing, you're the MVP. I know this was a long video, but I cut it down the best I could. Thanks for watching, guys.